Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again, folks. Pardon me. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do the usual disclaimers, pardon me. If you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit. They did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic refused, so you know the drill. Please read the article. Share on all your social media. Also included is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever actually does see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1: when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you do got young children present, please make sure to use the headphones. Trigger warning 2: this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised. Alright, folks, where we left off last time. As discussed earlier, in determining whether a device presents an unreasonable or substantial risk of illness or injury, the FDA weighs the device's benefits against its risks and considers the risks relative to the state of the art. The benefits and risks of a device and the state of the art are heavily impacted by the device's intended uses, including the patient population for whom it is intended. Let's put this in layman's terms, shall we? Our job here is to determine whether the risks involved in using such a device are going to outweigh the potential benefits. The answer to that question for the GED device is a resounding yes. The risks far outweigh the so-called extremely temporary so-called benefits. That's beyond question. We have proved that way beyond just a shadow of a doubt. Okay? That is what they are saying here. Now, they backtracked a little bit by saying for the patient population for who it is intended. But again, I go back to my original point. That much wouldn't even need to be said had we actually named the exact ESD device, that being the GED, in question here. Because that would be an overall ban for that specific device. Because there is no other uses for which the GED is being used for or is intended to be used for. It's used in a singular place for a singular purpose. Had we kept our eyes on the ball instead of being vague to cover our ass, we may not be having to deal with these arguments now. It's not tailored, but they can make the argument because we did not use precise enough language. Please, for the love of God, tell me we've learned that lesson. Thus, FDA's banning regulation for prosthetic hair fibers explains that these devices are intended for implantation into the human skull to simulate natural hair or conceal baldness. And the glove powder ban is not for any gloves or powder, but certain powdered gloves intended to be worn on the hands of the operating room personnel protect a surgical room from contamination and intended for medical purposes that are worn on the examiner's hand or finger to prevent contamination between patient and examiner. And the glove powder intended to be used to lubricate the surgeon's hand before putting on a surgeon's glove. Again, I circle back here. All this confusion happened, and JRC was able to win because you were too afraid to name the device outright that's up for question here. Had you, instead of using the vague term of ESD, actually used the GED device, there would be no argument, because that's only made in a singular pace and is used for a singular purpose. There would be no argument where you have to ban it for every single use it's being used for, because it's only being used for one. You shot yourselves in the foot. Okay? It's already dizzying reading the Kool-Aid drinkers and the bad faith actors regurgitate the same talking points over and over and over again, no matter how many times they are systematically debunked. But the fact we gave them a mulligan because we were too afraid to use specific language is how we're having to redo this whole thing all over again. And folks, it nearly took a decade to get that first ban done. I am not ready to spend another decade fighting these bastards because people are afraid of their own shadows. Name the device. Then these questions will disappear because they will no longer be relevant. Okay? Easiest thing in the world to do. Now, I'm noting the arguments that they're putting in here. Don't get me wrong. Yes, we're saying those gloves cannot be used for that specific purpose, what have you. I get that. I do understand it. Problem is, it has nothing to do with the debate here. Has nothing to do with the price of beans, alright? Even bringing up those other cases and how the door got opened up is because the FDA was not specific enough. It's not every single electrical skin shock device that is up for debate here. It is a singular one manufactured by a singular place, designed by a singular place to be used for a singular purpose. Had we named the device, none of these questions would have been able to give the JRC some segue room to manipulate. Okay? All of that may be relevant to the question, yes, sure. But the point is that time didn't need to be wasted on this argument when it all could have had all the clarity in the world had you not been so vague in the first place. And even though you do throughout the argument try to refer to the GED, you don't name it. You gotta name the thing. For the love of God, name the thing. Otherwise, we're going to continue to kill trees, waste oxygen, and watch another generation of kids get traumatized because we're too busy covering our own ass instead of, I don't know, doing your jobs correctly. Sorry, I know that came out as pretty brutal, but at the end of the day, folks, I have been fighting this for so damn long. Literally 2 years out of high school. And I was already in this fight. And I'm going to be 40 this November. I don't want to wait another 20 years. It needs to end now. So the people who have the authority here need to get specific and not leave any ammo on the table. And we're going to go ahead and close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. You know the drill. Please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everyone.